It's time to revolutionize your school and welcome it into the 21st century. Say goodbye to the old-fashioned chalkboard and hello to the innovative Walltalkers chalkboard wall covering. What's the best part about Walltalkers? It can be installed over any properly prepared chalkboard surface. You don't need to take down the old chalkboard, just install right over it. This video will demonstrate two types of installations. First, we'll cover installing Walltalkers on a wood-framed chalkboard, which requires careful removal and replacement of trim. The second demonstration will be working with an aluminum-framed chalkboard with removable snap-on trim. Each installation offers its own different challenges. I'm sure you're eager to start installing, but I want to point out a few important details before we begin. First, we recommend that you watch the entire video before starting the installation. This will ensure that you have a thorough understanding of each step. Second, throughout the video, we will emphasize issues that are critical to the success of your installation by flashing this symbol at the bottom of the screen, along with a line of text. Please make special note of this important information. Let's get the tools together that we'll need for the installation. Plastic covering for the floors, ladder, scraper, sandpaper, sanding blocks, a multi-purpose remover, pry bar, hammer, flathead screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver, pliers, edging tape, auto body filler such as Bondo body repair kit or vinyl spackle, putty knife, spray paint, similar color to chalkboard, level, straight edge ruler, tape measure, pencil, sponge, bucket, mild detergent, razor blades, wall covering smoothers, clean soft cloths, and pressurized sprayer. Preparation of the installation area is essential. Cover surrounding areas, including outlets, with the pre-mask tape to prevent overspray or other materials from harming bulletin boards or walls. Lay your plastic covering on the floor to protect carpet or tile. Now let's check out your Walltalkers to ensure that it had a safe trip. Start by opening the box at one end and removing the Walltalkers along with the protective brown tubing. For smaller lengths, the material may be shipped in a tube. Simply cut the tape from around the cap and slide the cap off of the tube. Next, to remove the Walltalkers from the tubing, start turning it from the inside. Continue turning from the inside until it is loose and can be pulled carefully out of the tubing. Be careful not to coil the material too tight, since this may cause the release liner to release from the adhesive. Do a once-over to make sure that there is no damage. We're now ready to prepare the chalkboard for installation. Our first demonstration involves working with a wood-framed chalkboard. First, if possible, remove the old wood frame from the chalkboard. This will allow for rough trimming of the Walltalkers under the frame, eliminate any possible trimming flaws, and allow the edge of the Walltalkers to be covered by the trim. Be careful when removing the frame and trim if you're going to reattach them once the Walltalkers is installed. To loosen the trim, use a flathead screwdriver, pry bar, putty knife, or other appropriate tool. Slowly work the trim every inch or so on both sides. Do not force it. Use caution when removing the trim, since the chalkboard behind it may be loose. Be sure any nails or screws are removed from under the trim. If necessary, the chalk tray can also be removed. Show-through may occur if the chalkboard underneath has any areas with significant contrast. All ballpoint pen ink, wax crayon, oil-based stains, or any foreign matter that may bleed through the Walltalkers needs to be removed. Use multi-purpose remover in order to remove these markings. For foreign matter such as tape or stickers, use your scraper to work these off. Remove any adhesive that is left behind with the multi-purpose remover. Be careful not to damage the surface of the existing board. Remember, your finished installation will only be as good as your preparation of the surface. Using your scraper, scrape along the edges, removing excess adhesive or glue from where the trim was. You'll also want to remove any nails or tacks still in the frame. Dust off any residue from the surface and tray with a new or dry paintbrush. Next, thoroughly wash the chalkboard surface, surrounding wall and trim, and tray with a mild detergent cleaner and then rinse with clean water. Be sure to remove all dust, dirt, or foreign particles from the board so that the wall talkers will adhere to the chalkboard, thereby removing any possible contamination that may affect the finished installation. Surface imperfections, such as cracks, joints, or chips, should be filled with vinyl spackle or auto body filler. Since the spackle or filler may contrast with the color of the chalkboard, once you lightly sand the spackle and it dries, cover it with a spray paint that closely matches the chalkboard. Lightly sand this area once more and make sure the colors blend. If you use drywall compound or vinyl spackle, you may need to apply multiple coats and sand between each. The spackle needs to be primed to protect it from the water during installation. If you use the color-matching paint over the spackle, make sure that the paint provides a water barrier. Do not attempt to paint or install the wall talkers before the fillers have time to dry. Now let's return to the wall talkers you've already unpacked. It should be mounted horizontally across the chalkboard surface. Measure the chalkboard vertically and horizontally. Next, roll out your wall talkers in a clean area. If you have enough space, measure the piece you need in one measurement. As you can see here, our space is limited, so we were measuring the material in small sections, adding up to the total size needed. You'll want to use tape to mark your measurements. Do not make marks on the wall talkers. Be sure to leave the wall talkers a few inches longer and wider. Once the wall talkers is installed, you will trim around the edges for a perfect fit. Add half of a capful, or approximately 1 teaspoon of mild detergent to 2 gallons of clean water in your pressurized sprayer. Dampen the entire chalkboard with the soapy water solution. We do recommend 2 installers, as seen here. Pull at least 1 foot of the backing away from the wall talkers prior to sheet contact on the chalkboard. Be sure there's no debris on the adhesive backing before installing. If you find something, simply scrape it off using your finger. Once the first installer lines up the wall talkers, use a plastic smoother and with downward and outward motions, remove air and water pockets from under the chalkboard covering. Since these tools vary in texture, we recommend wrapping the smoother in a dry, soft, and clean cloth to protect the wall talkers from damage. The second installer should continue to remove the backing, slowly and evenly, as the first installer works closer. Either rolling or tearing the backing every few feet makes this process easier to manage. More solution should be applied to the chalkboard if it appears to be drying. I can't stress enough how important it is to make sure no debris comes between the adhesive backing of the wall talkers and the chalkboard, as it may show through on the surface of the wall talkers. Once installation of the wall talkers is complete, using upward and downward motions, smooth out the wall talkers chalkboard covering, working outwards toward each edge. For best results, work from the center up and down. This has a squeegee effect and will work air and water pockets out from behind the wall talkers. It will also allow for tight edges since you will be trimming them after this step. The installer is using the plastic smoother and a single-edge razor blade to work his way along the edge while trimming the wall talkers. Change razor blades often to ensure an accurate and straight trim. Take your time and precisely cut along the edge of the trim as tightly as possible. Do not cut into the writing area. Once again, use the plastic smoother wrapped in a dry, soft, and clean cloth for the squeegee method to remove any excess air or water pockets from the material. Next, tamp down all of the edges. This will remove any of the remaining solution and push the edges down tight. Remove the pre-mask tape from around the board edges. Using clean water, wash off the entire surface of the wall talkers, ledge, and the frame that will be reinstalled. Do not use abrasive cleaners or cloths. Use a clean, dry, soft cloth to dry the surface. Now it's time to reinstall the frame on the top and sides. Using a hammer, carefully tap the side frames back into place. Do not hit the wall talkers. If necessary, fill along the edges of the trim for a proper seal with a small bead of 100% silicone caulk to help seal the edges. Or, to eliminate the need for caulking, trim the wall talkers tightly against the existing trim. Once the final trim and cleanup have been performed, your wall talkers is ready for action. As you can see already, the improvement in the classroom is unmistakable, and the benefits will be realized for years to come. Next, we're going to demonstrate an installation that involves working with aluminum snap-on trim, and a couple of techniques you'll need to know for trimming and installing the wall talkers. First, remove the existing trim by popping it off. This can be done using a lift and twist motion on the trim. Pull the trim up from the bottom to pop it off, then simply lift it upward. You'll want to remove all the top and side pieces of trim and, if possible, the chalkboard tray. Once all the trim has been removed, surface preparation is the same as previously described. We've already prepared this chalkboard for installation. Now we're going to show you the techniques you'll want to follow for wall talkers application and trimming. After wetting the surface with the soapy solution, we're ready to apply the wall talkers. The only difference in applying the material on an aluminum trim application is working with the brackets and, if it cannot be removed, tightly trimming along the chalk tray. Not to worry, it's only a matter of making sure your wall talkers overlaps each bracket. Once the wall talkers has been thoroughly squeegeed out, you'll want to trim around each bracket using the broad knife and your single-edge razor blade. Although we do not recommend using metal on the wall talker surfaces, a metal broad knife works well to get a nice clean edge. Once all of the brackets have been trimmed out, you'll need to trim the wall talkers between each bracket. To do this, simply feel for the edge of the blackboard behind the wall talkers and use it for your guide to trim from bracket to bracket. This method can be used along the top as well as the sides. For trimming along the bottom tray, firmly hold the broad knife blade along the edge of the existing trim and push the wall talkers down against the trim, angling the razor blade away from the trim as you cut. This will allow the material to lie tightly against the trim. Make sure you lift the metal blade along the material since you do not want to scratch the surface. Once all the trimming has been performed, you're ready to replace the aluminum trim. This is basically the same as the removal process, but in reverse. Simply hook the trim along the top edge of each bracket and snap it firmly down in order for the trim to engage each bracket. You may need to use a rubber mallet to ensure enough force is applied without damaging the trim. Now that this is complete, wipe down the surface of the wall talkers using a clean, soft, dry cloth. Make sure you install the wall talkers' special care and maintenance sticker. You'll want to make sure everyone who uses the wall talkers takes proper care for years of excellent performance. For the joining strip or H-bar, there are a variety of ways to treat this if it cannot be removed. First, you can leave it the way it currently is and trim the wall talkers up to it. Second, you can apply an epoxy paint that will resist staining of the markers. This can be painted again if it becomes stained. Third, it can be covered with the wall talkers material. It may be necessary to apply a contact adhesive or another more aggressive adhesive on some of the H-bars so the material will have a tighter bond. After installing the wall talkers, you've not only made changes to an outdated chalkboard, you've transformed the entire room. Here are a few important tips to remember. 1. Do not allow any contaminants to contact the adhesive on the back of the wall talkers prior to installation. Remove any debris from the adhesive with your finger. 2. Do not use metal or sharp objects on the surface as they may damage the material. 3. Be careful not to crease or bend material when handling. 4. Do not puncture air bubbles under the surface. 5. If the strip goes up unevenly, peel it off and reinstall. If you have any questions about the material, stop working and notify your supplier. Good luck with your installation, and welcome your classroom to the 21st century. Wall Talkers is one division of RJF International Corporation. The Coraseal family of products includes Coraseal wall protection systems, Coraseal and Microtex wall coverings, and Coraseal Studios, a collection of high-end original designer wall coverings. Once your application of the wall chalkers is complete, you've created a useful dry erase surface that, with proper care, will give you great performance and enhance any room for years to come.